What's something you did just to be safe that ended up saving you later? I took out salary continuance insurance until I was 65 instead of just the 2 years I was originally thinking. I was only 35 when I did that. The next year I was in a serious workplace accident, and 20 years later and still unable to work full-time, I am still getting 85% of my salary. I cannot imagine what my life would have been like if I didn't have that money coming in each month. Started taking photos of my apartment during the final walkthrough when moving in. Landlord tried charging me for pre-existing damage when I moved out, but those timestamped pictures saved me $2,000 in bogus fees. I told my buddy to do the same with his car rental. When he returned it, they started talking about dents on the car. He said, "Oh, I have pictures and a video from pickup, let's look." The attitude changed, and he got a clean bill. On holiday in Gambia, on a resort. After a day or two, I noticed you could lock the bathroom door from the outside. I showed my girlfriend. We both thought it was strange, but since the lock was there, why not use it as we were on our way out? When we came back, the bathroom window was forced open and they had tried to enter the apartment. Well, y'all figured out what that was for. Bought the optional flood cover on our investment property for just $30. Almost didn't, as it was only $30. 2 months later it flooded, and the repair bill was $380,000. That's quite the return on investment. Making sure the gas alarm chirps wasn't going off just from old batteries and driving down to a gas station to get in new batteries at 2 a.m. Alarm continues. It was a real gas leak in the middle of the night. Glad I didn't ignore that. Old furnace was replaced immediately, and it's wonderful, and costs so much less every month compared to the old rickety furnace. As I drove down to the gas station, I ran over a screwdriver in the middle of the road. It punctured a gas line on my truck, which died as I was pulling into the gas station. A policeman was inside, so I told him what was going on. I bought the batteries, and he gave me a ride home. It was a very lucky or unlucky night depending on how you look at it. You know what, mine has been chirping since like last week, and I just assumed if it was from detecting gas that it'd be an actual alarm and not just random chirping. You've now put it at the top of my priority list to change the batteries. Installed some water alarm sensors under boiler, washing machine, dishwasher, WC, etc. Got them just because you never know. They use the same system as my smart smoke detectors, and they were discounted. First night, 2 a.m., alarm and the whole house goes off. I wake up, look at my phone, water leak in basement. First thought, yeah, no way, the new sensor must be faulty. Go downstairs to find a broken water pipe and water spraying out of it. Without the cheap sensor, I would have woken up in the morning to find out that my basement has turned into pool rooms. A $100 bill I keep inside my hat saved me from being stranded far from home. Got ditched by some friends after a house party because they didn't feel like giving me a ride home after they told me they would prior. My mother convinced me to take a physical map with me on a road trip, just in case, even though I was convinced I would be fine with my Google Maps. Taking the scenic route, I got stuck at a road closure in a dead zone where my Google Maps refused to load. I thought my only option would be to double back about 30 miles to the last turnoff to the highway from this road. That was, until I consulted the physical map that showed a cut-through pass only 5 miles back. Turned out to lead up some windy mountain path and, weirdly enough, through a military base, but it was still a legit civilian road that saved me from adding hours to my trip. Added a $4 MO health insurance option that covered like 8 weird things. Turns out my wife indeed needed one of those 8 things, vertebral arthroplasty. Saved us over $100,000 or a $30,000 trip to Spain to have it done. I always keep a fire extinguisher in my Jeep. One night while cooking dinner, I smelled smoke and saw flames coming from behind my oven. I grabbed the extinguisher from the pantry, PPHHFF. It was dead. I grabbed the extinguisher kept next to the fireplace, PPHHFF. Dead. I ran out to my Jeep and grabbed that extinguisher and put out the fire that had already spread to the cabinets above the stove. I replaced all 3 fire extinguishers the next day. About a month later, on the interstate, I noticed a car up ahead of me suddenly start smoking badly and made its way to the exit lane. I pulled in behind when I saw flames coming from underneath. I grabbed the extinguisher and started spraying under the car as the driver got out. I got her to pop the hood and put out the rest of the fire. It looked like a fuel line broke or came loose. Turns out, she was from out of state and had borrowed the car to bring her baby home from Children's Hospital. The baby was in the back seat. Always keep a fire extinguisher handy and check and replace them when the gauge gets out of the green. Hadn't used my inhaler for years. On a whim, the one time I ended up needing it, I just happened to put it in my pocket before leaving the house. I carry with me just to be safe now. Shaved my whole head after 2 separate doctors told me the tiny lump on my scalp was nothing to be worried about, and went to a 3rd doctor just to be sure. Surprise, surprise, it turned out to be a form of skin cancer, and it was caught early enough to not be much of an issue. Get regular skin checks, and if you know something is wrong with your body, whatever it may be, stay adamant because it could save your life. Not me, but my mother. My mom bought the travel insurance on her Disney World trip because she is bipolar and thought if she had a bad day they would get a refund. Turns out it absolutely doesn't cover that, shocker. But what it did cover was my dad having a heart attack on property. He ended up needing to be life-flighted. We had to get a hotel near the hospital, the whole thing. Insurance covered basically everything. Unfortunately, my father ended up dying, but we didn't come home with a huge bill on top of the tragedy. Kept a hidden account from ex to put in birthday cash, etc., and kept a go bag hidden in my car. Pretty sure to this day it saved my life. When my mom went into labor with me, she was going to go to the local hospital to have me. My dad, on the other hand, knew that the local one didn't keep the surgical room prepped. Therefore, he suggested going to a hospital a bit farther away that had the surgical room ready, should something go wrong. Long story short, Mom ended up abrupting a few minutes before she got to the hospital and needed an emergency C-section. If she had gone to the local hospital, there was a strong chance that she would have lost me. So something that my dad did ended up saving my ass. Stay in the city for finals rather than driving from the village I lived in. I was a mature student studying at a university about 35 miles away. Usually I drop the kids off at daycare and then drive in. For my finals I decided to crash at a friend's place who lived near my uni. No idea why I decided to do this, as it meant finding someone to take my kids for 3 days, which was difficult. On the second day a plane overshot the runway of a small regional airport and landed on the motorway next to the airport, blocking it for most of the day. If I had driven in I would have been caught in the resulting traffic jam, missed my exam and would have had to repeat the year. This didn't save my life, but it could have saved others had they also done it. I camped a lot in my teens through Boy Scouts and took the first aid and emergency prep aspects very seriously. In my early 20s I went out camping with some friends and supplied the bulk of the gear we used. A small river ran through the park we were at, and all of them wanted to set up next to it, so they could go swimming easier. I pushed back hard. The river was obviously already sitting a bit high, and they wanted to set up shop in an area next to it that looked like a regular floodplain. In the end, after a lot of back and forth, I essentially told them, "My gear, my choice. Walk down if you want to go swim. The tent and camp will be up here." Fast forward 2 to 3 weeks and a flash flood pushes through that river in the middle of the night, sweeping over that area where they'd wanted to camp. A few people ended up dying, seemingly being caught off guard in their sleep and getting trapped in their tents. Don't fuck around with water. The other 3rd grade teachers and I held a parent night in the cafeteria. The parents and kids were at different stations doing little simple experiments. I left my area clean and ready to go, because I'm human. The others couldn't care less. At the end of the night I happened to video the aftermath and my section. I had a gut feeling. The next day the custodian complained that a mess was left, and the older teachers literally blamed me for a lack of organization. The weak principal was going to also put it all on me when I presented the video and shut down any discussion. Got a blood test done in 8th grade at the insistence of my math teacher. I'd been leaving class every 30 minutes to use the restroom and he'd had it, and told my mom to go rule out a kidney infection or something since I insisted I wasn't leaving to skip class. The doctor told us I seemed fine, but we did it anyway since I was there. They called us back at almost midnight and told me my blood sugar was 926 and to get to the hospital before I went comatose. Diabetes is so fun. This was years ago. I decided to change phone providers and get a new phone with a new number. The store clerk wrote down my new number on what seemed like an empty business card where they would write any customer's new number on it. I knew you could look up your own number on your phone, but I decided to stick the card in my wallet so I could just pull the card out and look at the number quicker that way. Fast forward a few years to a concert I went to. I lost my wallet and didn't realize until later in the night. Boy, did that suck. At the time, Apple Pay was just starting to be a thing, but I didn't have it registered and could only Uber back to my place. But no food or souvenirs from the concert. My night was ruined, and I was devastated. The next morning I get a call from a number I don't have saved. "Hello, I have your wallet." I think I teared up when I heard him, but I asked how he has my number, and he told me it was in my wallet. I had no clue what he meant by that because I only remember having my IDs and debit credit cards. We plan a meetup, and when he shows me the card with my number, I then remembered the clerk that wrote down my new number on the card. Till this day I carry a laminated card in my wallet, with my name and a message saying if found please call XXX number. What a lifesaver that card was. Saw a weird blip on the horizon as a kid while playing in waist-deep calm water with my little brother, and told my brother to get out of the water. We went and sat up on a grassy hill. The blip turned into a huge rogue wave that injured almost everyone who was still in the water. When I was a young helper, I tied off a ladder that was up on a fire escape. The guy in charge told me I was being ridiculous. Well, the wind blew it over and we found it dangling off the side of the thing. Could have easily killed someone. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.